Hello, gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Talking about some very interesting concepts tonight that are usually just for the one-on-ones, but I wanted to share them with you as well. I felt led to be a little bit more open about some behind-the-scenes stuff, and so that's what this is a part of. What we're talking about tonight is a concept called alignment. And this has to do with the structure of the inner man. So it's not just about how you are built on the outside, but how you are built on the inside. And specifically today, what we're talking about is how does that affect your expression? If you're stuck in your head a lot, if you're an overthinker, if you tend to have some nice guy tendencies where you're playing by the book, overcautious, not wanting to take risks, then this is going to be a game changer for you. I can't wait to get into this. Make sure you like the video if this resonates with you at all, and be sure to subscribe as well. We're on the road to 300. Appreciate every single one of you. So getting into it, the concept of alignment has to do with our skeleton friend over here representing physical alignment of the spine. Okay, so we're going to play off that to help understand the inner psychological alignment. Okay, so to break down in very simple layman's terms how this works, alignment is having good performance. So performance with good posture under pressure. That is alignment. And that is a concept we're going to dive further into. So homeboy over here, if I put pressure on him, he will break eventually, right? He's eventually going to break. But since he is in alignment, straight up and down, he's going to be able to be strong. He's going to be able to stand up with good performance and good posture under that pressure for the maximum amount of time, right? If he had poor alignment, it'd be a different story, right? So the human spine, if you're looking at it from the side, is going to have a little bit of curvature to it. It's going to come down from the brainstem around the shoulders and then have a dip in the low back and then to the hips, right? So imagine the hips are here, we've got the neck here, and then, the shoulders are right here. That's going to be sort of what it looks like from the side, okay? But from the front or from the back, it should be more or less a straight line. Now, the reason why is because in the spinal column, you have these vertebrae, right? And these vertebrae stack on top of each other. And this is not straight at all, I know that, but you get the idea. These vertebrae are supposed to stack up on top of each other and it's supposed to be a straight line. This is actually an example of a misalignment, right? So instead of going straight up and down, there are these breaks in the alignment where it's not straight up and down. And these are called subluxations, misalignments that happen whenever the vertebrae do not stack on each other, and the central nervous system, which is the spinal cord in this case running through the spinal column, is crimped a little bit. It's kinked up a little bit. So that affects us in two ways. Number one, if our spine is misaligned and I'm applying pressure here, it's going to collapse. So the posture is not going to be as good and the performance is not going to be as good, because when the CNS is kinked and crimped up, imagine like a hose, and then you kink the hose, right? The flow of water through the hose is going to be stopped where that kink is, right? So if you imagine that happening in the central nervous system, at that subluxation, we have a disruption of flow. An extreme version of that would be having a car accident where you break your back, completely sever it. Well, I can guarantee you that everything below that severance point, you're going to lose control. The central nervous system is going to be blocked from controlling that. Like you won't be able to wiggle your toes or walk, right? That would be an extreme example of this, but there are minor versions of subluxations that can cause numbness or slow reaction times and etc. whenever you have a misalignment. So that's overview of alignment. Posture and performance under pressure would be good alignment, and bad alignment results in less posture and less performance, right? So we're going to take this concept of alignment and we're going to bring it over to the inner man. I want you to imagine these blocks as the vertebrae of your psyche. So instead of the central nervous system, CNS, I want you to think about the psychological nervous system, the PNS, okay? So we're looking at the psychological nervous system. This is an ideal stack. This is what it would look like for you to be aligned from head to toe. So let's play this out. In a perfect world, going back to our skeleton man here, the chain of command works like this. You have the brain, and you have the brain stem back here, right? The brain sends a signal through the brain stem, and it flows directly where it needs to go. If you want to wiggle your fingers, it's an instantaneous flow with no disruption, and to imagine it is to do it, right? There's no lag time in the wiggling of your fingers. That would be the ideal alignment stack, all the way down to your toes, your reaction time, your nerves, your feeling, all of those things flow smoothly up and down the central nervous system, right? In the same way, that is how you are designed to work internally through the psyche, okay? So here's how it should work ideally. Your beliefs are at the very base. So it's almost an opposite. This kind of flows top to bottom. This would flow bottom to top. So your beliefs are at the bottom here. So what you believe ideally should produce how you feel. It shouldn't be the other way around, right? That would be a little weird. If your feelings produced your beliefs, that would be sort of a weak fortitude, wouldn't it? So the belief should produce how you feel. Your beliefs and your feelings should be in alignment with how you think, okay? So your beliefs should produce feelings. Those can be translated into thought, all right? And then after we have all that codified and laid out, we transition across this dotted line. This dotted line is the difference between the outer man and the inner man, right? I can't tell what you're thinking, feeling, or what you believe. Only you can know that. I can surmise or think about what that might be based on what's on the outer man, right? I can use the outer man to judge the inner man. And that's actually something we're not supposed to do, right? Is judge someone's heart. But that would be what this is using the outer to judge the inner, because I can't see the inner. I can't see your thoughts. I can't see your feelings. I can't see your beliefs. I can only do my best to judge what those might be based on what you do on the outer. So again, the belief should produce feeling, should produce thinking, and then all of that together should create your energy and presentation, which I would call your vibe or your demeanor, if you want to call it that, something a little less woo-woo, whatever you want to call it. And then that would produce what you say. And then all of that would be in alignment with what you do. That would be a full alignment stack. So your beliefs, feelings, thoughts, vibe, words, and actions should all be head to toe in perfect alignment. A lot of you are already recognizing, yo, that is not me. Because I don't always do what I'm thinking. I don't always say what I'm thinking. I don't always feel what I'm saying. I don't always do what I want. And I feel like my beliefs are not in alignment with what I say or the vibe I'm presenting or any number of things. And you would be right. There's a lot of misaligned men in the world. The type of misalignment we're going to talk about today has to do specifically with a break in the thoughts and logic, and that creating a sort of misalignment. So bearing all this in mind, I'm going to scooch over to this other stack. This is what we would call a typical nice guy misalignment stack right here, okay? So in this stack, what we have going is the thoughts and logic are in alignment with the words, but there's a little bit of a break between the words and the actions. There's a massive break between the thoughts and the vibe. So I want to break down, where do these feelings live before we move on? So the beliefs and instinct, we're going to call that the gut or the spirit. You could also call it the instinct if you wanted to. This is where intuition happens. We would call this the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind. And then that's where you store your beliefs, by the way. Okay, so the beliefs are in the unconscious. Now, where are the feelings? The feelings are going to be in the subconscious. You see, because the subconscious and the unconscious don't deal with language, all right? I know this is a lot, guys, so lock in. The subconscious and the unconscious don't deal with language. They deal with feelings, beliefs, intuition, right? Language comes in at the level of conscious mind, which is up here. This is where we start to put words and labels to things that are occurring on the inside, right? Because babies have beliefs and emotions and feelings before they can attach language to it. That is kind of in order. When you look at the brain science, the structure of our brain, the development of the brain, it all ties back to this. So unconscious, subconscious, conscious. We're going to call this the gut, spirit, intuition, instinct down here. We're going to call this the heart, the subconscious, and we're going to call this the head, which is the conscious mind. This is where the thoughts and logic are taking place. Now, the nice guy misalignment. How does it happen? Well, originally he was like this. Let me clean this up just a little bit. So originally he was just like this, right? This is how he came out. But here's what happened. He's going through life and he's flowing and he's going. His beliefs, feelings, thoughts, vibe, words, and actions are all in alignment and everything's going great. But then something happens, right? He encounters some sort of pain, or he gets into some kind of trouble, or he has a dream that gets let down, or he expresses himself to a woman and gets burned. Something happens, okay? And it's usually not just one thing, it's usually a plurality of things. And then he starts to realize, oh, I can't let all of my emotions and feelings flow. I can't let my instincts take over. Because if I do, then fill in the blank. If I do, then I will be hurt. If I do, then I will hurt others. If I do, then it will be a sin. And so what he starts to do is he starts to use the mind, the head, the conscious, his thoughts, to act as a filter so that he suppresses the natural flow of beliefs, instinct, emotions, and feeling. Here's what that looks like. The order of operations would be that the emotions and feelings are pushed to the side, right? So we're disrupting the emotions and feelings off to the side such that when they attempt to flow upwards in certain ways, they're blocked or they must be filtered. Similar to this subluxation, this kink in the hose. The information cannot flow freely because it gets subluxated and blocked and kinked up in the water. The information can't flow freely. So if you imagine right here, there's a certain category of emotion that he's learned can't flow freely. So whenever it tries to come up, it stops, it gets stuck. And it has to take this artificial route through the filter of the thoughts and logic when it's supposed to just be flowing freely. So we have the emotions, feelings, and beliefs and instinct. They're trying to come up. If it's right here, we're good to go. Because everybody has a zone of alignment where everything does flow well. For For the nice guy, it's a very narrow zone. He can't often be himself. There's only certain contexts where everything can flow and he can truly act without inhibition and be himself. And that would be this zone of alignment right here. That's what we call that, his zone of alignment. In this zone, coming back to our definition here, in that zone, he can perform with good posture under pressure, but only in that zone, right? If I exert pressure here within this zone, then the stack does not fall. But if I start exerting pressure outside of the zone, we're in trouble, right? That would be posture and performance under pressure. And the nice guy has learned over time, I cannot trust my emotions, feelings, beliefs, and instincts to flow and go as they are. I must use my head to suppress them and filter them such that they can't flow freely. They have to go through this little side quest to make it to the top, okay? Using the conscious mind as a filter. So what this results in is a suppressed and stifled man. He does still have instinct. He does still have emotions and feelings, but he has learned that he can't trust them. And so he begins overthinking. He doesn't know how he really feels. This is what happens when things become suppressed, when they're subluxated under the surface, and he's stuck in his head a lot. He starts making all of his decisions with the conscious mind. He's not able to think on his feet, right? We talk about thinking on her feet and reacting and being quick. That's coming from instinct. That's coming from belief, and sometimes coming from emotions and sensing intuitively what to do. Because the mind, the head, the conscious is actually a very, very small part of your knowledge. Your knowledge base as a human is vast. It's very, 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 very big. Much bigger than most of us ever tap into. The amount of things we can pick up on and learn and grow from and put together and the connections we can make are nearly infinite. But the conscious mind is only able to process small amounts of that information at a time. So the problem that the nice guy has is when he's siloed in, an Excel spreadsheet, or when he has a narrow system of rules and guidelines to follow, he's great. He can flourish within that. But when we're stepping into risk, when we're stepping into the unknown, then we're running into trouble because he is so stuck in his head that he can't lean on the beliefs and instinct or the emotions and feelings. He can't trust the sub and unconscious mind, which sucks because that's where most of the data is stored. A lot of his potential is being stifled because he's not tapping into the databases of the sub and unconscious mind. Now, you might be wondering what this blue spherical thing is. So hang with me. This is going to be tough. This is you, okay? That is you. You are not your actions. You are not your words. You are not your energy and presentation. Okay, you are not your thoughts and logic. You are not your emotions and feelings. You are not your beliefs and instincts. You are none of those things. Those things all comprise your psyche, but they are not you, okay? You are this consciousness, all right, that flows through those zones, okay? You flow through the zones, but those zones are not you. Your consciousness can be in the belief, it can be in the emotion, it can be in the thought, which is, again, the head, the heart, or the gut. But it can't be in all of those places at the same time. It can be kind of in the beliefs on the border of the emotions or in the heart on the border of the head, but it can't be everywhere at the same time. And as you guys can probably imagine, it follows the flow of the alignment path here. So it can't be stuck in the head all the time while still being able to access the heart and the gut. And that's the issue with the nice guy, is the nice guy is living in his head. And so when it comes time to execute or do something, when it comes time to think quickly, react intuitively, instinctively, it comes time to have the witty one-liner in front of the friends, when it comes time to perform in a new task, he's stuck in indecision and analysis paralysis because he's stuck in the conscious mind and unable to tap into the things that would really help him in that moment, which are his emotions and his instinct. And I'm a terrible scribbler, so we're going to clean this up again. So practically, other than not being able to make quick decisions, think on his feet, and be confident and quick when it counts, what this means is the vibe that the nice guy produces is off. It's weird. It's creepy sometimes because his energy and presentation do not match his words or his actions. And that presents the ick. That gives a weird energy, right? His vibe is actually in alignment with how he feels and his instincts, and he doesn't know why his vibe is off. He knows what to do, but he can't get himself to do it. You can read all of the game, you can study all of the hierarchies, you can read the books, you can watch the videos, but at the end of the day, the vibe will still match the feeling and the instinct, which is going to be different than the actions and the words, right? You can program the mind on what to do. But when it comes down to it, if your consciousness is stuck in the conscious mind, then you won't be able to fluidly act natural when it counts in these social situations, right? Because your zone of alignment as a nice guy is not super great when it comes to the girls or social dynamics of many kinds. So when you're trying to flow and perform on these concepts and ideas that you've heard in the mind, there's issues, right? Here's some more examples on how this plays out in real life. Think about the concept of beginner's luck. What is beginner's luck? Well, it's when you are starting some sort of a new game or new sport or a new challenge, a new task, and you don't know anything about it. You're a beginner. So right off the bat, what do we know? We know that the conscious mind is not going to be helpful because you're brand new. You don't know anything. What that does is it forces you, whether you're a nice guy or not, to, if you're going to take part in this new activity, you're going to have to bypass the mind because the mind is empty. The mind is useless. The mind has no experience or knowledge of this task. You are a beginner. So if that's the case and you are brave enough to enter into this new task or game or space or whatever it is with a blank mind, then something magical happens, right? The beginner's luck takes place because when the mind is bypassed, the beliefs and instinct must take over as the decision maker. So you go into this sport, let's call it, volleyball, for example. You go into volleyball not knowing anything about it, and you have beginner's luck, and you're abnormally good for no apparent reason. Why? It's because your consciousness has to bypass the mind because the mind is empty. The mind is not helpful at this new task. So you have beginner's luck because for once in your life, you're flowing immediately from the beliefs and instinct. You're flowing immediately from the emotions and feelings. Now, you probably have bad form and you're probably breaking some rules here and there, but overall, you're doing abnormally well, surprisingly well, and you don't even consider yourself that athletic. Why am I doing so well? Well, it's because you're finally tapping into the sub and unconscious mind because you're not relying on what's in the brain. Now, why do they call it beginner's luck? Well, it's because when you start getting more experienced in the thing, the luck goes away. It's like, man, why was I so lucky as a beginner, but I'm not as lucky anymore? Well, it's because experience starts to fill the mind. So you start programming the mind, the conscious mind, with new ideas and experiences, which gives you permission to start doing what you normally do, which is staying stuck in the mind and using the mind. So the beginner's luck goes away because you're no longer tapped into that instinct, okay? Another very accessible example of how this works is to think about alcohol. A common colloquial name for alcohol is liquid courage. Why? Because it gives you social dynamism and confidence that you would not have otherwise have. How does it do that? Think about the mechanism of alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin, it is a poison, and it goes to work on the mind. Why are people more fluid socially when they've had a few drinks? Why is it that a lot of people can dance better when they've had a few drinks? Well, it's for the exact same reason that beginner's luck exists, because of the mind being removed from the equation. When alcohol comes in and poisons the mind, you have less of a connection to the thoughts and logic. And so it is no longer being that filter that you're used to having. So you're able to speak more freely and flow more freely that way, and your beliefs and instinct are more attuned. So drunk mind, sober thoughts, right? And better at dancing too, because you're not thinking about it so much. You're not in your head about it so much. You're able to flow freely because your mind is out of the picture. This is why nice guys stay nice, is because they try to figure their way out of a misalignment problem. They're trying to use their mind to fix their mind so that their mind can work better, but that's not the root of the problem. The root of the problem is that you are in your mind too much and you've suppressed your connection to the heart and you've suppressed your connection to the instinct. And that probably started a long time ago, and it's been something that's been reinforced over time with many, many repetitions. Guys get stuck in a self-improvement loop. They read the books, they go to the gym, they're doing all these things, but they're not overcoming their nice guy tendencies because they're tackling it through the venue of the mind, and they're not able to tap into the heart and into the instinct. What I do with my clients is help them figure out exactly why and exactly what they are suppressing in their heart and in their intuition and gut, and learn how to unlock that and let that flow and take over so that you're not stuck and trapped in the mind so much. Because being in the mind is great if you're trying to do math, if you're trying to solve code, if you're trying to do an Excel spreadsheet, or look at a P&L or whatever it is. Being in the mind is great in a lot of circumstances. But when it comes to social dynamics, when it comes to women, when it comes to a lot of sports, when it comes to a lot of physical activities, you don't want to be stuck in the mind. You want to be tapped into the near infinite resource of the unconscious mind, which is where those instincts come from, so that you can make snap decisions that are in your favor and lean on your intuition. A lot of nice guys can only count on one hand the amount of times they've been able to do that successfully. Whereas the bad boy type is completely different. The bad boy type is able to flow freely. Not saying we should be the bad boy type, but the reason why a lot of guys are jealous of him is because they look at him and they say, man, it's so easy for him. He just flows so freely. It's so natural, so effortless, so confident, right? The reason why is because he is not using his mind to suppress his instinct. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please comment below. Please like the video. Let me know if you want me to do a further, more in-depth breakdown on the concept of alignment. And if so, what would you like to learn? Thank you all for watching. See you next time.